Good evening. We will now begin our September 22nd work session with Congresswoman Emily Randall.
I'm so glad to be here with council today. I'm 9 months into this position in quite the wild time to serve in federal office for the first time. And in addition to all that's going on in DC, what has been really important to me is to try and be as present and accessible to our community and really get to know local electeds and community leaders to forge stronger relationships and be able to understand and advocate for the issues of our shared constituents. We've now done 12 town halls since I was sworn in. We have a 13th in Elma coming up soon. And, every district work period, which is roughly a week a month, as I was saying before, I try to spend a day in all 6 counties, each of the 6 counties in the district. The peninsula is a big territory, so we put a lot of miles on the car. But those relationships that we're building with leaders like you and community members really allow me to bring those stories and experiences to DC and to argue against or for policy that will serve us better. I mean, our neighbors have incredible strengths and resiliency and great ideas and are facing challenge after challenge after challenge. And I want to make sure that we are facing those challenges together to be able to create more opportunity for the leadership here in our community so that we can grow a strong economy that works for all of us. We can ensure that young people growing up in our communities have every opportunity that they need to envision the kind of future that they want. And folks who are, aging in our communities have the opportunity to do so safely and healthfully and with dignity. And it's a hard time to be fighting those fights. And I want to make sure that we're fighting them together. I know we have opportunity to have a lot of conversation about this. I know you sent a letter to our office about some of the particular challenges that you are facing, questions you have, and things for us to keep an eye on. I'll start by saying we are really appreciate that that information and that continued stream of input from leaders like you. One of the biggest challenges right now is that this executive administration, this presidency and federal agencies, they don't always give Congress a heads up when they're going to cancel a grant or put a pause on funding or change the direction of a program. And in previous administrations, I hear from longer serving members of Congress that there was more open stream of communication between the executive branch and the congressional branch. And so often it is from grant recipients that we are hearing first about grant cancellations. And, that flow of information allows us to figure out how can we fight back? Do we write a letter to, Secretary Noem about a FEMA grant? Are we able to ask questions in committee? Do we pivot to like a more public-facing messaging campaign around a change in policy that is impacting our constituents? And I just really appreciate you being willing to be in such close partnership with us so that we can be better advocates for you. Yeah.
Are there any particular questions? I know I have a couple, but they can wait, really. I was trying to see like any questions, I guess, directly related to the letter, since that's what we had sent preemptively. All right, so in the letter, I think I have the most updated one. The grant funding is a huge one. And, I think actually I'll start with my couple of questions just so I don't forget them. But it also feels like I just feel on a personal level really defeated by everything going on right now. And we are in positions where there's constant challenges and barriers, and it's always trying to find how to navigate those to help everybody that we can help and still making that sustainable. And so I guess my question to you is, what can we do as municipal elected officials? I guess what do you think would be the best thing that we can do to help you help us? I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
This is a question that I ask myself every day. I think there's something new for us to react to. It feels like every day, at least once a day. And what are the right tools to deal with each new surprise? In the kindest characterization possible. And I think you have, as local elected officials, particular strengths and particular challenges. Certainly from a challenge perspective, you don't have the budget to do all the things that your constituents need from you from government alone. And federal funding pauses and stoppages and rescissions, I can only begin to imagine how challenging that is to deal with. And we want to help advocate for reversals of some of those as much as possible. And so sharing that information with us is the important step, and we can sort of be co-conspirators in figuring out what the best approach is to move forward and to try and get that money back. But the other thing I will say is that, I hear from neighbors all the time about how, and I feel this way too as a Washingtonian, how lucky we are to live in this Washington right now with such uncertainty and such anxiety. And, not all for all of our constituents, but for many of them, it feels like a real value shift. And I think folks that I talk to often feel like really lucky that they can count on their state electeds, their county electeds, their city electeds, their school board members to speak up for them and to do everything that they can to at least prevent some chaos. And that is really, really powerful. Folks are looking to you to be a calming force and a steady force, and to continue to focus on the issues that matter to them. Sidewalks and clean water, and, a government that functions when it feels like there are some levels of government that are just not. And, I was in the oversight committee last week, and where we had elected officials from the District of Columbia before the committee. And, my remarks there were about some particular grant rescissions from Pierce County and what that means for cities and county governments, that because of what's happening in DC and because of the grant pauses that we're seeing across the country, I think local electeds like you are being put in a position where you have to decide, do you stay true to your values and your mission and risk losing money, or do you try to use words that allow you to have less of a target on your backs in your city? How do you navigate this position you're in where it feels like the executive branch is kind of forcing your hand by using grants as an incentive to do policy in the way that they want? And I mean, that is a really challenging position that you're in. And I think every city and every organization has to weigh those options really carefully and uniquely to their mission. And I think as long as you all are staying very clear-eyed about how best to serve your constituents and sharing with us what you need from us to be able to support you in that work, there's nothing more that I could ask.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very helpful. Anybody else? See Brandon made it.
So, having worked with tribes for many years, I'm really used to lack of enough funding, but also the starts and stops of funding. And I think for us, that's made us more innovative in ways. So I really think that this is an opportunity to take a step back from how we do things and look at other innovative ways to do things. So I don't know if you've thought about any of that, and most of my knowledge is in healthcare. But as far as like, especially like the public works and transportation, we have this huge list of projects that we really want to make sure get done. I mean, our city infrastructure is really important to the people who are living here. And so any thoughts on innovations and ways of doing things?
Well, thank you. I I think a lot. So when I was first elected to the Senate in 2018, I remember the first summer saying like, I wake up every day and I think to myself, like, am I burning the system down or am I rebuilding it from the inside? And obviously I wasn't going to like burn anything down literally, but there are a lot of government functions that have been built on top of old functions and that become sort of cumbersome and are no longer serving the main priority that we need them to serve, but have just turned into a sort of cyborg of years over years of change on top of change. And now I think, I don't know if I can even call it a silver lining, but an opportunity and responsibility we have is to think about how we do rebuild these systems that are being burnt down. Like there are agencies that are being gutted. Maybe they're not being statutorily dismantled, but by defunding programs, they are being forced to no longer function. The Department of Education is just one example. And I think we have the opportunity and the responsibility to think about how we build anew. And does it have to be like copy paste what it was before? Or do we think about how we serve people more efficiently? How do we serve the mission with less red tape and a more streamlined approach? How do we think about I think about Medicaid a lot, as we're seeing these attacks on our healthcare system, how do we rebuild it in a way that serves people better? And that's hard right now in this environment, but I do think we should be really thinking about what the better version looks like. And doing as much drafting and analysis as possible. And oversight, I will say, it was not one of my first choices of committees to serve on in Congress. I often joke that it feels like Bravo instead of C-SPAN. It's really the Real Housewives of the Oversight Committee. It is very performative place to be. But our new ranking member, who stepped in after ranking member Jerry Connolly passed away this Congress, is Robert Garcia, who was a longtime mayor of Long Beach, California, and is young and a great friend. And, his number one mission was, in addition to holding the Trump administration accountable, was to show people that government can work better for them, and to tell people that, we as Democrats in Congress want to make sure that government works better for people. And so that's something we're talking about a lot. How do we don't have to be at odds all the time from one side of the aisle to the other. We can agree that, some permitting and processes take too long. We can agree that, the Department of Defense not being able to pass an audit ever is a problem. We can agree that there are systems that could work better for us and figure out how to make them do that. And I think being sort of in the ashes is a exciting time to think about how we make government work for us in a powerful way.
The same thing is going for us here in our communities in the county, in that funding is getting cut to local service organizations and agencies. And so I see your point in that we're having to look at how do we go, we can't rely on receiving this. So how are we going to strengthen ourselves to do better? And then I look at cuts to things like funding for clean energy, and we've got PNNL right here in our backyard. And that's a huge deal for SQUIM to have that resource here, and we want to see them succeed and survive. And so maybe does it help for us to have it and kind of collect these local stories and testimonials for you?
Yes. Local stories are so powerful, and we started collecting, like really proactively trying to collect some in the first funding pause right after the inauguration in January. I think we were up here in Clallam County the day that there was first like grants getting stuck and people unable to draw them down, and blackouts and portals, and hearing the impact on employers, hearing the impact on service providing organizations, on community members. Those stories are very powerful, and I will share them in committee during the minutes that I'm allowed to testify. We'll share them in our newsletter. We'll lift them up on social media. We'll put them in letters that we write to the administration to show examples of what it means to real people in our communities when systems are no longer working. I also mention, since you brought up PNNL, before we came here, we were just on a tour. I had been at the end of last year, right, either after or before I was elected, I don't remember. But it was really exciting to see some of the growth there. And when we heard that the national laboratories were getting cuts, we immediately called PNNL to, understand what the impact would be on SQUIM. And thankfully, so far, none of the budget or position cuts have directly impacted PNNL's work here in SQUIM, though we will stay really on top of that. My legislative director is from the Tri-Cities and has family that works at the national labs as well. And, sitting on the Natural Resources Committee and on oversight, these are committees of a lot of overlapping jurisdiction with the labs. And I think for our ability to do really cutting edge science, for our ability to employ folks right here in our community, for our ability to offer young people exciting internships and job opportunities. And for our national security, it is really important that PNNL here in SWIM have all of the resources that they need to do their work. So that's definitely high on our list, and I would love to stay in partnership with you on that.
Anybody else have anything? I'll let everybody else go before I say my bit.
Well, really briefly, Emily, thank you again so much for being here. I just wanted to follow up on the commentary about PNNL. We are so lucky to have PNNL here in SQUIM. They have an amazing program that they're working on there, and they've published, they've put it out there in a YouTube video about the work that they're doing in terms of seaweed and harvesting those rare earth minerals, and how cool that is about democratizing that harvesting process for the world. And you mentioned the Tri-Cities, and I was just there this summer for the AWC State Conference. And part of the opportunities that were offered for the elected officials there was an opportunity to go tour Hanford and see all of the amazing things that PNNL and Hanford are doing to clean up that area right next to the Columbia River. I wanted to really just thank you very much for advocating for that, and for the national laboratories and all the science funding that's getting cut. I really hope that science stops being defunded, and so we can reverse that tide, because that's a way we can move forward and understand the world that we live in a better way. So all I wanted to say is just thank you. So.
Councillor Butler.
Good evening. For the record, this is Councillor Butler. I appreciate being able to join you remotely this evening. Thank you for taking the time, Representative Randolph, to spend with council. And I'm sorry I can't be there in person. So Brandon and/or Rachel, I don't know if you're working through the topics of the letter, but I want to make sure that in the time that we have left, that we do talk about the impact of Medicare, Medicaid funding on our local medical services, OMC and otherwise.
Yeah, you want me to jump in here? Thank you, Dan. I feel like not a day goes by that I am not thinking about the impact on our local healthcare systems and the ability for individuals to access care. For folks who don't know, I spent all 6 years in the state legislature working on healthcare policy on the Health and Long-Term Care Committee, partnering with Councilwoman Lowe on the Universal Healthcare Commission, and expanding Medicaid and trying to figure out how we can bring more high quality, affordable healthcare to more people in Washington State. And it's personal for me. I had, like everyone, I think, a family history with healthcare needs, and my sister was able to live a really full life because not only did my dad had Department of Defense employee insurance, but what wasn't covered under that was covered by Medicaid because of her disability. And I hear stories every week from parents and family members and individuals who are losing their coverage or at risk of losing their coverage under this administration's policy decisions. And that's why I voted no on the Republican budget proposal last week before flying home, because it was further defunding our healthcare system and not renewing the incredible tax credits that allow folks to buy their insurance on the exchange. And, you know, a lot of people say, well, like, you know, I don't have that subsidy. I don't qualify for Medicaid. I mean, I don't use Medicare yet. But even folks who have employee or employer sponsored insurance have to have somewhere to use it. And when you have a hospital system or a healthcare clinic that is 70+% public payer, then cutting public healthcare funding, you know, really is like throwing a wrecking ball at their budget. And, you know, our Olympic Medical Center and the hospitals around the peninsula want people to know that they're not going to close their doors. They're going to do everything humanly possible to keep their doors open. But we are going to be in a position of seeing like which service lines have to be cut. What, you know, do you have to drive 2.5 hours for cardiology or for OBGYN? Like what coverage is no longer available here in your community. And that's scary because as I mentioned before this, you know, we have a 1 hour window in which we can get across the bridge today to get home between like the, you know, bridge going up for a vessel and then the closure tonight. And if you have that kind of, you know, particular infrastructure challenge, you know, you can't just go to another hospital in your city, right? We're not in Seattle. We're not in LA. We're not in, you know, any other big city where everybody's got lots of choices. If there's an accident on the 101, if, you know, the bridge is open, like what, there just aren't options for folks. And so in rural communities like ours, we have to maintain the access to healthcare that we have, if not grow it, right? We should be thinking about how we're growing access to healthcare. But this administration and congressional Republicans seem like laser focused on defunding our healthcare system in order to provide tax cuts to big businesses and the wealthiest Americans. And I disagree vehemently. And so we look every day to find stories that we can amplify, to look for opportunities to take interviews, to highlight testimony from medical providers and patients who rely on Medicare and Medicaid funding. And we will keep doing everything we can, and we'd love to work together to ensure that we're leaving it all on the table to preserve access.
Can I just add? So then Senator Randall and our state senator helped, well, draft and pass the bill that established the Universal Health Care Commission in Washington State. And so we are working on universal health care just in our state, which is too bad that there could have been a bill that passed at the federal level for many years before this administration that would help us with that. But we can only do it within the structures that we have. But we are working really hard on it. And I think you'll see some stuff coming out of the legislature. I mean, really looking at how to expand access, do like a public employee benefits like lookalike plan for businesses, because that's where we're seeing a lot of the hurt. And also a wild idea of doing a state option Medicare Advantage plan to bring the Medicare premiums into the state to help pay for it.
Innovation happening right here.
Yeah, see?
Anyone else? All right. So this one's just a little bit different on the lines here. So one of the issues on the 8 years I've sat on this council has come from a more centralized group of citizens. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Mountain View apartment complex here in town. The apartment complex behind the old J.C. Penney's. I'm not sure if you are familiar with where that is or not.
Geographically, yes.
Yeah. So basically, for the last 8 years I've done this council, I've heard complaint after complaint about the living conditions of that apartment complex. So trying to figure out, who manages that apartment complex has been a task in and of itself. And recently I figured out who it was, and it's HUD at the federal level. So attempting to contact them is, I have a better chance winning the lottery than contacting anybody. So I would just like to see, ask for your help any way I can to see if you could put a bug in their ear about, obviously it's going to come down to money, about seeing how to better maintain whatever properties that they oversee. Because obviously I've never been able to tour inside a lot of their properties there, but just looking at the outside of those properties, you can definitely tell that, they've been deteriorating ever since I moved to Sequim, over 25 years ago. So any help on those type of topics would be much appreciated.
Yeah, I would be happy to talk more with you about specific challenges and, make connections, try and make connections at the federal level. I will say this administration is, our nearest head office is in Seattle, and this administration is closing that office. It's unclear where they're sending all of the folks who will keep their jobs, to the extent that there are folks who will keep their jobs. And granted that, you mentioned this has been an ongoing problem, and I'm not laying it at the feet of this administration entirely, but I will say that it's hard to imagine them prioritizing improvement when they are systematically dismantling the agency. But I do think, at a values level, everyone deserves a safe place to live, whether you rely on a federal voucher or not. Everyone deserves a place to live that is well maintained and really livable, and defunding an agency like HUD is not in service of that mission, but also, allowing an apartment complex that is a federal property to decay and degrade is not in service of that mission either. So happy to work together.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it also goes back to what you mentioned earlier, and everybody here is stories. At 10 minutes, anybody else have anything?
Other than to say, I really appreciate your time. And it's nice to know that, out here on the Olympic Peninsula, I know, we have our community, right? And for the most part, we agree with each other on a lot of things, and some things we don't agree on, right? But a lot of the things that end up impacting people when they least expect it, those are the kinds of things where it just feels like we're in the middle of nowhere. And I might sound kind of like a pessimist, and that's not typically like me, but it's just like you were saying, it's like every day there is a new, I'm not going to curse up here on the dais, but just a new circus that we have to navigate. And it just feels so disheartening some days. Like, we are so tired of having to constantly fight for the things that we need, and trying to explain that to people on the federal level that just don't listen, don't care to listen, won't listen. And so I just really appreciate you coming here and being on the same page of, people need XYZ. how can we make that happen? And it's how can we make it happen when it feels impossible with everything going on? And so I'm just glad you're here, and I'm glad that we can work together, and I'm glad that we can steer in the same direction. And like transparently, it might take a long time just because of government, but also government feeling impossible. So just anyway, I'm rambling. So thanks for being here.
I just thought of a good one. Okay. So you mentioned the oversight committee. For in your work in Washington, D.C., what other committees do you serve on? And I imagine the best way to contact you is through all the official channels, through the your website in Congress. So and this question I'm asking, I could probably have found it out in advance, but enlighten us. What other ways are you serving SQUIM and this district in DC?
Wonderful. Well, I will start with how to contact me. Randall.house.gov is our website, and there is a form that you can fill out to contact our office. And you can do that if you've got feedback on a bill, if you have an idea, if you have a story to tell, or there's a separate form if you have a casework request. And casework is like help with a federal agency that impacts you. Our team has returned over $4 million this year to constituents in the district through, IRS return help, VA benefits, you name it. We're helping individuals and businesses access the services and funding that they are entitled to under federal law. And we have a 3-person casework team that is really incredible at their jobs. So randall.house.gov. Democratic members of the House each, for the most part, sit on 2 committees. I serve on oversight and the House Committee on Natural Resources. And we're allowed on 4 subcommittees. And so I have 2 subcommittees in each committee. On the oversight committee, I serve on healthcare and financial services, where we talk a lot about Medicaid, sometimes DEI. We talk about whatever the Republican chair wants to talk about, and then I serve on the government operations subcommittee, which has a lot to do with the interaction between federal and local governments. And then federal employees fall under that jurisdiction as well. In natural resources, I serve on the federal lands subcommittee, a huge geographic portion of our district. And I also serve on the Indian and Insular Affairs Subcommittee, where we work with not just the 12 federally recognized tribes in our district, but certainly them, as well as tribal nations from across the country. And then I serve on a bunch of caucuses. Let's see, is it the Northwest Straits caucus, where we work on the Straits of Juan de Fuca, policy related there. I serve on the Puget Sound Recovery Caucus. I launched as one of the founding co-chairs, the Congressional Ferry Caucus, alongside 2 Republican co-chairs and 1 Democratic co-chair in addition to myself. And this August went to Alaska on a natural resources trip and carved out a day to ride on the Alaskan Marine Highway System to understand what similarities and differences we had with our ferry systems. And I brought those Democrats and Republicans from across the country together because all of our constituencies rely on ferry funding, and it seems to be a priority of this administration to invest in American maritime excellence. And so if we can get some of that money for our ferry system, then I'm going to fight for it.
Thank you so much, Emily. It sounds like you're there's never a dull moment in your day.
It's certainly an exciting, interesting time to be in federal office, but I really just want to say how grateful I am for you making the space and for being committed to building stronger and stronger relationships with each other so that we can work to serve our communities. I'm a Democrat. That's how I ran, but I served first in the state legislature where we passed 95% of our bills every year with bipartisan support. I grew up in a bipartisan family and believe that it is our job to work with anybody we can to get good results for our community. And it's hard at the federal level, harder than I expected. Having served in a Democratic trifecta where we sued the governor twice, I thought, well, how hard can it be to hold the executive branch accountable? And it's hard. But there are opportunities. And so I went to Alaska. There were 8 Republicans and 3 Democrats on that trip. And I continue to look for opportunities to invite colleagues over for dinner at my DC apartment or chat about my silly dog that I bring to committee with me or, hear about what inspired them to get into office, because I think there, on a human level, is so much more that unites us. And if we can figure out those places, even if they're few and far between, where we can work together while holding true to our values, then we'll all be better off. Thank you.
I know we only got a couple minutes left, but I want to give the opportunity for student liaison to ask a question if she has anything.
My name is Layla Sandine. I'm the youth liaison. Sorry I was late. I had work. Our other youth liaison got held up at tennis, so he's also anxious to meet you, but he apologized. He wasn't able to make it. Lincoln and I actually polled the student body, came up with some big questions to ask. The biggest one was actually, have you ever met the president? And I believe the answer is yes to that, but.
Well, I met President Biden before his term was up. He invited all the new members of Congress to the White House for a reception in January. And I got to meet him and the First Lady, who frankly I was the most excited to meet because I chaired the Higher Education Committee for 5 years in Olympia. And, she's been such an incredible champion for community colleges. I haven't met the current president yet. He did come to the House to give, it wasn't the State of the Union, it's, I don't know, whatever, the address to Congress. And he walked down across the other side of the chamber. I don't know that he's met with Democratic leadership of the House yet, and he certainly hasn't met with me, but I would take the opportunity, certainly.
Cool. And then the second biggest question, I believe, was what are you looking forward to do in this administration? Like, what is your biggest goal?
So, I'm almost halfway through my first term in Congress. And one of the most important things for me going in was to build relationships with local leaders in the district, but also with members. I'm one of 435 in the House, and that's a lot more than the 49 that I served with in the Senate, to get to know, to understand what motivates them, to find the places where we can be aligned. And so I'm continuing to work very hard on that because, it's, especially as a member in the minority, the best way to make sure that your bills get heard or to find a policy that you can work on is to build relationships with folks in the majority. And I wasn't really sure that I would get a bill passed my first term in Congress, but a bill that we wrote from scratch in my office with the help of an incredible legislative aid was added to the NDAA as an amendment and is going to be signed into law. We've had 3 other bills heard in the Natural Resources Committee, and I expect at least 2 of them, which are trust land transfers for the Lower Elwha Column tribe and the Quinault tribe, I think will pass the House. I don't know about the Senate, but we're working on it. And so that's only possible with strong relationships with the Republicans on the Natural Resources Committee. Because you said in this administration, I'm going to tell you what my goal is for the second 2 years, which is to hopefully be in the majority in the House and be able in the Oversight Committee to actually be a check and balance against this administration on the issues that I disagree with most strongly, especially healthcare and federal employees.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your and randall.house.gov is our office's website. And I would also be happy to give you our cards so that you have my chief of staff and district director, Katie Crabtree, over there in the corner. It's contact information. If you or your fellow youth liaison find yourself in DC or want to come to our district office for a day or to shadow or just for a meeting, we would love to have you. Obviously, the entire council is also welcome to our DC or district office, but making space for youth leaders has always been really important to me. So would love to be a resource for you.
Thank you so much. That's an amazing opportunity.
All right, we will adjourn till our regularly scheduled meeting at 6 o'clock. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting of the Sequim City Council to order. If everybody would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And if the city clerk will please take roll call.
Counselor Kelly Berger.
Here.
Counselor Dan Butler.
Present.
Counselor Vicky Lowe.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Rachel Anderson.
Present.
Mayor Brandon Janice.
Present.
Counselor Harmony Rudder.
Here.
And Counselor Nicole Hartman.
Here.
All right, approval of the final agenda. The only change, I'll add is just a 10-minute recess after item 7A.
I motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second that.
All right, anything further? Any opposed? All right, seeing none, that motion will pass. All right, one ceremonial item this evening. This will be on Resilience Awareness Month. Is there somebody to receive? All right. And whereas communities thrive when individuals of all ages and backgrounds are supported by building resilience, well-being, and a strong sense of hope. And whereas research on adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, and the science of hope, resilience, and trauma-informed care show that healing and prevention are possible through early intervention and protective factors like strong social connections and environments that foster safety, belonging, and empowerment. And whereas fostering community resilience requires a common language that shares understanding rooted in both science and lived experience, recognizing that everyone, regardless of background, has a role in nurturing, healing, and connection. And whereas community-led and cultural responsive strategies that provide practical skills, tools, and practices across lifespan help prevent trauma, buffer stress, and create opportunities for all individuals to flourish. And whereas cultivating shared leadership, especially by centering youth, families, and individuals with lived experiences, ensures that solutions are equitable, sustainable, and grounded in the wisdom of those most impacted. And now, therefore, I, Brandon Janice, Mayor of the City of Sequim, call upon all citizens of Sequim to acknowledge the importance of coordinated events, educational opportunities, healing-centered spaces, and do hereby proclaim the month of October 2025 to be Resilience Awareness Month, and urge all residents to learn about hope and work to create a community that promotes healing and wellness. Signed on the 22nd day of September 2025, Brandon Janice, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Janice, for your declaration and having us here today. I'm Minnie Whalen of the Clallam Resilience Project, and I'm joined by Shaylee Evans, business owner of Goodness Tea and resident of Sequim. We represent our consortium of over 50 partners and 500 community members working together to foster resilience on the Olympic Peninsula. In response, we'd like to briefly express 4 acknowledgements. Number 1, your deliberation and platform in proclamation of Resilience Month awareness helps to develop shared language and a common understanding of how strong social connections across the lifespan are a primary force in helping to promote well-being in Sequim. Number 2, we invite you to participate in Resilience Month events. These are creative events happening in Sequim, including the Yarn Circles at the North Olympic Library System on October 4th, 18th, and 26th. There are educational events such as the October 11th Compartiendo Esperanza, or Sharing Hope, a bilingual dialogue, storytelling, and guiding discussion about mental wellness happening in Forks. Or you might be interested in our month's keynote, Creating Common Ground, at Peninsula College's Studium Generale on October 23rd.
3, residents can pick up resiliency kits from the Bookmobile's October site locations while supplies last. The kits have conversation cards designed to strengthen relationships and buffer stress, as long as Goodness Tea's community-sourced herbal tea. And please accept the gift of tea we have for you. It's a demonstration of how individuals can build their own resilience through harvesting in their backyards and in our environment, and also how the community can provide for us. And 4, this work is best done in collaboration. We celebrate entities like OLICAP, OMC, NOLS, and the Olympic Community View Foundation, who have all joined together as parts of Resilience Month to enact the well-being that you've stated in this proclamation. Consortium members say they're adding value to each other's work through our coordinated efforts. Over 95% of responding partners and entities and individuals recognize that by working together, they're achieving more than they could alone. You and your council have influential voices, and we thank you again for declaring and sharing out the tools for individual and community resilience. Thanks.
All right, moving on to public comment. This is a limited public forum. Individuals providing public comment must not disrupt or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of the meeting. And this is not a forum for hate speech. The city of Sequim supports the public's First Amendment right to free speech, but it does not support hate speech. And speakers are expected to be courteous and refrain from making hateful comments, sounds, or remarks. And any offensive words and conduct shared by the public do not reflect the city's values. And the city of Sequim stands firm in its commitment to being an inclusive community and rejects discrimination of any kind. And before we start, just want to remind whoever signed up for public comment, and if you're wishing to speak on the moratorium item, that this is not the place for that, though we will give you the sign-up sheet for that if you signed in the wrong spot. So, City Clerk.
For individuals attending in person, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak on any topic, and there will be a timer visible on the screen. A total of 30 minutes or 10 speakers will be permitted for public comment. When your name is called, please state your name if you are representing an organization and your city of residence. And no one has signed up for general remote public comment. We have one in person. John Worthington.
John Worthington, Sequim. I'm going to talk about 8F. Sequim belongs to CERN, which is Strait Ecosystems Recovery Network, and they have a deal with Puget Sound Partnership, and they are deciding growth management and shoreline master plan the final plan, but they don't meet until November 5th. So my complaint to the city of Sequim, which has already been made to Clallam County, is that at no point since I've been a citizen of Sequim has anybody ever seen CERN's stuff or the ECB board. It's called the Ecosystems Coordination Board of Puget Sound Partnership, and they review the plan on November 5th. And the Dungeness River Management Team, they also weren't ready to show us that. So how do the public in an APA process is supposed to see stuff, get notice and comment, and then comment on it. So what's happening is that Clallam County, Port Angeles, and Sequim are doing everything in the GMA and Shoreline Master Plan, and then it goes over to the ECB, then it goes to CERN. The public never sees any of that stuff. And so everything you're doing is either a dog and pony show or it's just stuff that the public will never see. So if the Dungeness River Management Team said, oh no, we're not done, we're going to give you one more crack at it after November 5th. That's nowhere to be seen, but they told me that verbally. So you can't really finish your growth management plan or your shoreline master plan until you get that stuff from the ECB and show the members of the public before you decide to pass it. So thank you. Otherwise, it's a violation of the APA. Thank you.
And that concludes general public comment.
All right, moving on to item 7A. This will be emergency moratorium on master plan overlay applications. And before we open the public hearing, the clerk will read some common instructions.
Soon the mayor will open the public hearing and take comments. If you are in person and would like to provide comment, please sign in on the public hearing sign-in sheet. In-person public comments will be alternated with confirmed registered remote comments. For persons registered and approved to provide comments remotely, press the raise your hand icon, or if you're on the phone, press *5 to raise your hand and wait for automated prompts. Comments from persons who have not signed up or registered before the meeting will not be considered. Comments are limited to 3 minutes and there will be a timer visible on the screen. Please avoid comments not related to the subject of the hearing. Participants will be disconnected after speaking. Due to the number of individuals signed up to provide public comment, I will call 3 names at a time. When you hear your name, please come to the podium and stand in the order in which you heard your name called. Please note that if you are in line at the podium, you may need to wait your turn to speak, as I will be alternating between in-person and remote comments.
All right, the subject of this public hearing is the emergency moratorium on master planned overlay applications. I'll go ahead and open this public hearing. Does the city manager or staff have testimony to present?
Good evening, council. Purposes of the record, Christina Nelson Gross, city attorney. As the mayor has indicated, what you have before you is the state mandated public hearing that must be held within 60 days of the adoption of a moratorium. Before we go discussing the moratorium status, I think it is important for council and for members of the public to again hear what this moratorium is and what it is not. As stated at the outset, this moratorium has nothing to do with the West Bay project in the sense that it represents an approval or disapproval of that project. The city enacted this in moratorium to ensure that the city regulations, comprehensive plans, and other guiding regulatory documents have reached a level of consistency that will allow the staff, the members of the public, and the applicant to have a clear, well-defined process. So again, this is not a comment for or against the project. That is not the purpose of this moratorium, or frankly, for the purpose of this council, right? The project goes through and is reviewed upon the standards that the application needs to meet, and the applicant bears the burden of proof that it has met that standard. So again, I would ask and hopefully encourage you and other members that you communicate with, please do not refer to this as a West Bay moratorium. It is not a West Bay moratorium. Are they affected by it? Yes, but this is not in regards to them. The process, once it reinitiates, there will be a separate public process in which everyone's voice and will have the opportunity to be heard, because that is how the permitting process goes. So hopefully that provides some clarity on the expectations of tonight. So council, as you may recall, staff brought this item to you just almost exactly 2 months ago because staff became concerned about some consistencies in those guiding plans and regulations that I have just mentioned. Staff believe that it is in the city's best interest to make sure that all of those development regulations and plans are consistent, both internally with the comprehensive plan and other development regulations, but also within those regulations themselves. The reason for that is by having clear, understandable regulations that provides everybody with the best understanding and knowledge in which they can participate in the public process. So that is what staff are working on. Staff continue to work on that. And staff will again make the comment that if staff become aware of a way in which we can reduce the breadth of the moratorium, we will in fact bring that to council. However, we are not there at this point. So I believe that is all I have to say at this moment, and I would entertain any council questions on that.
Any questions from council? Okay, nothing for council. Okay, we will go ahead and move on to the public comment period. And again, I will reiterate, this is not a forum for hate speech. The city of Sequim supports the public's First Amendment right to free speech, but it again does not support hate speech. Speakers are expected to be courteous and refrain from making hateful comments, sounds, or remarks. And any offensive words and conduct shared by the public do not reflect the city's values. And the city of Sequim stands firm in its commitment to being an inclusive community and rejects discrimination of any kind. And as this is a public hearing, a few other words of note: speakers may not donate their time to other individuals, and please avoid repetitious comments, personal attacks, or comments not related to the subject before the council tonight. Please make all comments to the chair and refrain from cheering, clapping, booing, etc. And please be respectful to everyone's time and contributions. And let's see here. And this is a time for the community to express their views, and the council will not engage in dialogue with the public during this time. So, City Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to speak?
Yep, I'm going to call to the podium Christine Wilson, Heather Burgess, and Jeff Gunderson. And we have one person that has registered to provide remote comment, and I'm going to start with them. So hang on. And that is Casey Roloff. Mr. Roloff, you may unmute your mic and address the council.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. Wish I could be there tonight. We had a family wedding that I wasn't able to break away. Yeah, we just are here tonight wanting to make sure everybody understands that we would love to build a new neighborhood in the city of Sequim. We've really enjoyed getting to know a lot of the neighbors and stakeholders in the area. We worked really hard to be proactive in offering public comment and the ability for the public to ask questions. And I think we had at least 4 or 5 public meetings that were voluntary, just so that we could listen and learn from the local community and make sure that we've heard any concerns and can address those concerns. So our goal is to build a walkable, mixed-use community where people do not need to use their car as much as we typically do with more suburban development. We have a proven track record with Seabrook, and anybody that is interested in what we do, we really encourage you to come down and visit Seabrook. Seabrook is definitely more of a vacation community as it is right now, because there are not a lot of basic needs, medical, schools, things like that that allow you to live full time. But those amenities and basic needs are coming to Seabrook, and more people will be choosing to live in Seabrook full time. The city of Sequim is definitely more of a full-time community, and we expect to see more full-time residents. And we're just a little taken back by the delay. We've been working for close to 2 years with city staff to get this application turned in, and so it's a bit sobering to find out that we're having to push the pause button and wait for these changes to be made after so much effort was put into our application, and again, working with the public and city officials. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Roloff. Our first in-person speaker is Christine Wilson.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members, city staff. My name is Chris Wilson. I'm an attorney representing John Wayne Enterprises. I'd like to refer you to letters that were submitted by John Wayne Enterprises on Friday and earlier today. As discussed further in those written comments, there is no emergency requiring imposing a moratorium as to the West Bay planned resort community. There's just a mistake by the city that needs correction. That correction involves amending the comp plan and the code as was directed in the city's 2018-2019 planning process, but did not happen. The city has the authority to make these changes in this calendar year. It just needs the will and clear direction from you as policymakers to have that happen. Because this issue of sub-area planning has been analyzed and the public process has been held in the past, there is no need to include West Bay in this pause on master plan processing, and to impose a moratorium in these circumstances is improper. If the city proceeds to cause improper damages to John Wayne Enterprises and the property sale that has long been known to this community, because my client, John Wayne Enterprises, has worked with this community for decades to see this come about, then it will be forced to challenge the moratorium and seek damages. John Wayne Enterprises has invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in this community, donating the marina to the Port of Port Angeles, building a well that serves that marina, the RV park, and the subdivision adjacent, and is in need of replacement through this master plan development, and preparing plans to attract a new development that meets the vision that the city has set in that earlier planning process. So for these reasons, John Wayne Enterprises respectfully requests that the city, 1, amend the moratorium to remove the pending West Bay application from its scope, and 2, ask the city staff to come back to the council as soon as next week with a plan to fix the comp plan and the code this calendar year, as was planned in the 2018 and 2019 process. Thank you.
Heather Burgess.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Heather Burgess. I'm continuing the attorney hit parade here for you because I am counsel to Seabrook, and I'm privileged to been Seabrook's land use attorney for the last decade out at the project in Grays Harbor. There's 2 components to the moratorium that you have currently in place. One component prohibits the acceptance of new master plan applications citywide. The other prohibits the processing of one master plan overlay application that is currently pending, which is West Bay's. While it may make sense to conclude that the 2025 comprehensive plan periodic process needs to conclude before considering new applications, the West Bay proposal reflects a vision for this property which dates back to at least 2007 and is already referenced in the city's current comprehensive plan. For these reasons, Seabrook joins in the request from Council for John Wayne Enterprises for the city to initiate and process a curative comprehensive plan amendment this year to remove the sub-area plan references from the PRC zoning district section in Chapter 3 and process a concurrent curative code amendment to other sections that have those references. These actions could be taken together with any necessary clarifying amendments. And taking these steps would do nothing more than effectuate the intent of the original 2019 council action adopting Chapter 1830 to eliminate any requirement for sub-area planning to precede a master plan overlay. Seabrook first and foremost values collaboration and problem solving as part of development. To that end, I have worked to provide potential solutions to the city's attorneys, short of a moratorium on continued processing of applications since these concerns were raised. Seabrook remains committed to solution-oriented ways to resolve these problems and is willing to commit time and resources in order to do that and ensure that there is mitigation on the impacts of that workload on city staff. We remain committed to a collaborative process to bring this project forward and appreciate the City Council's consideration of our request. Thank you.
Jeff Gunderson.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Jeff Gunderson. I'm the CFO for Seabrook Land Company, and I'm here regarding the moratorium on master planned outlays. For close to 18 months, we've been working productively with the city of Sequim on the West Bay project. That collaboration, however, changed this past spring. It seemed to us that the city had lost its appetite for the West Bay project and communication had slowed to a halt. After receiving notice that our application was deemed technically incomplete, we were invited to a meeting by the city attorney. We expected the meeting to be about discussing our application. Instead, we were informed of the city's decision to move forward with a moratorium. As we looked into this, we discovered that in 2019, the council had already directed city staff to update the comprehensive plan to remove the sub-area planning requirement. That direction was never carried out. We notified the city of this by August 11th, but never received a response. In mid-September, we returned with what we felt was a fair compromise. We proposed that the city make a minor comp plan adjustment this year to remove the outdated sub-area planning requirement, and at the same time adopt new code language to address the city's procedural concerns. We even drafted the language. We have been told that that is not going to be the recommendation made because it might appear to show quote unquote special favor to Seabrook. We respectfully disagree. Making corrections that this council directed staff to make 6 years ago is not a special favor. It's following through on city policy. The reality is this: if the city cannot commit to resolving the issues needed by the end of the year to allow processing of our application, I don't see a viable path forward for Seabrook on the West Bay project. There's no guarantee the comprehensive plan will be finished by June 30th. It was originally supposed to be completed by December 31st, 2025, but that deadline has already been extended. To date, Seabrook has invested over $1.4 million into the West Bay project. We have to seriously consider whether it makes sense to continue when there is no clear end in sight. We want to be clear. We remain committed to working collaboratively with the city and the community to create a project that reflects Sequim's values and priorities. But for that to happen, we need the city to engage with us constructively and honor the policy direction that was already set by this council in 2019. Thank you.
All right, the next three individuals for public comment: Timothy Dalton, Colleen McAleer, and Mary Cowan-Hoven. And I apologize if I mispronounce your names.
Good evening, City Council, City staff. I am here tonight, and you know my position. I am Housing and Grant Resource Director for Clallam County, but I want to be clear, I'm not representing the county here tonight. I am talking as a housing professional tonight. The areas that I've seen with moratoriums, that have been created, they create hostile situations. I think we're kind of hearing a little of that tonight. I know that the city staff, that they're working their hardest to bring on qualified staff that can handle this load. I mean, I thought when Rolling Hills came in here, everyone worried about what that was going to do, how that was going to tax staff and their capacity to handle everything going on. City staff has handled that. I think they have the knowledge and capability to work with any developer coming into the area to create what we need. We have a housing crisis in this community, and it is going to take a collaborative effort to fix it. We need to build on a supply side issue of all different variety of housing. That's the only way we're going to get out of this. And I think we need to be working on collaborative issues for this. I mean, the Westbrook people, Seabrook, whoever you want to classify it, that they have a variety of different housing, that they're looking at options. But not only as they move forward, I think, you know, if you have a moratorium in place for 9 months till June of next year, what else are we going to be missing that's going to be looking at this and say, we're not going to come. We're not even going to, we're going to look, where is our next opportunity cost? Where is our money going to be welcome? Where are we going to be built? And we are going to keep facing the housing crisis that we have. I wish you'd rethink this, maybe an MOU with some people, sit down with them and work through. I think, you know, staff is in great position to handle what is here and what is happening, just as they have been doing with the developments that we're seeing going on, whether it's Bill Hill, Rolling Hills, those sort of developments. Thank you.
Colleen McAleer.
Hello, Mayor and Deputy Mayor and council members. My name is Colleen McAleer. I'm the Executive Director of the Clallam EDC, and my remarks here represent my role there. I also happen to serve as a Port of Port Angeles Commissioner, which does own the John Moraine Marina, but I am representing the Clallam EDC in my remarks today. I want to point out that the average wage in Clallam County in our workforce is $52,854. That's produced by the quarterly census of employment wages from the Employment Security District. And that would equal, if someone is making that amount of money, that equals $1,300 per month in rent and housing expenses. Yet an entry-level one-bedroom today costs $1,500 per month in Sequim. An entry-level home is over $500,000, which that average person, keeping in mind half the people are lower than that, can only afford about half that amount. There's no way that they could be a homeowner today. I want to point out that when I have served on different panels, statewide panels, and we talk about housing, there are a lot of different counties in our state that are so envious of the fact that we have Seabrook willing to come to Sequim to potentially do a development here. When I was on this housing panel, the only questions that were asked was, how did you do that? I would hate to see Sequim lose such an innovative and comprehensive kind of development that Seabrook plans to create around the John Wayne Marina. In addition, as they've said before, they plan on putting half of 1% towards a foundation that could easily be used for workforce housing. And I also understand that not only would they build expensive, nice homes, and I know we need housing of all types, they also plan to build ADUs, cottages, townhomes, condos, duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes, and live-work units. I really hope this moratorium will be short-lived so that we can ensure that West Bay is able to move forward, because we really have a housing crisis and we need housing of all types. Also, I know that we need to address all the water issues and the traffic issues, but I believe that will happen through the process. Thank you.
Mary?
All right. Sorry. And my apologies. I'm originally from the Netherlands, so I have a bit of an accent. I live on the bay, and I'm in favor of the development because I believe it would move this forward. I do not believe it's a good idea to build affordable housing on the bay because, there's only very nice houses on the bay. So I would encourage Seabrook to build nice homes. My concern really is about the ODT. We have clear visibility on the ODT, and during the bridge construction, it was a real wake-up call for a lot of residents on West Queen Road that there are many people that take the turn off, when White Feather was closed, onto West Queen Road, and they run over cyclists, pedestrians, and myself and many others in our neighborhood. So, my request to Seabrook is, I know it's county, we are county, and also the city of Sequim, whatever master plan or whatever plan, please make sure that you create a safe environment around the end of West Queen Road, because it is a very dangerous situation.
The next three persons for public comment are Todd Holcomb, Jeff Fox, and Mary Bland.
Hello, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. My name is Todd Holcomb, and I too live on West Gwen Bay Road, real close to 101 and the ODT. And I just wanted to kind of second Mariah's comment on making safety a priority there, where the West Gwen Bay crosses the ODT onto 101 there. Maybe we dead end that and make the traffic come through White Feather or through town or whatever, and that'll probably come in through subsequent hearings, but I just wanted to make sure that was on the forefront, the safety as a primary goal. That's all I have. Thank you.
I think we'll have to take it off.
Okay, I am definitely not a speaker. I can't, I'm 89, and I grew up in Sequim, close to the marina, and my kids have played there before the marina was in, and I don't like what they've done with the marina. I would like to, if anyone read this one by Captain Sean Evans, I really like his idea of making things that are nice for the public to use. I mean, right now, these big, the fishing boats, so it's a real congestion on our Bay Road, the Western Bay Road, when they're doing the fishing. And I mean, I like the fishermen, but I think it needs to be something that's good for all the taxpayers in Clallam County. Okay, so anyway, that's my main thing, that I was there before, and my kids, my grandchildren and kids have, anyway, it's just not good. Okay, and I think the traffic is because of the fishing. I love fishermen, but we need to let the taxpayer. Anyway, that's my comment.
The next three speakers, Jeff Fox is not speaking tonight. So Sarah Tetrault, Bob Travis, and John Worthington.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Sarah Tatro, and I am a resident of Sequim. And I'm just here to voice my support in terms of putting a moratorium on the moratorium. I will say that I'm familiar with Seabrook, and mostly because I hadn't been there before. I'm a new resident of the state of Washington, and relatively speaking, and we went there in February with some friends. It was absolutely lovely with the planned development and not just happening overnight. We were able to walk to restaurants, and we didn't have bikes, but we were able to get on great trails and just really enjoy our time there without a car. The weather, I have to say, wasn't great like we have here, but that's okay. As far as having that development in this area, I think it would just bring a great influx of people as well as energy to the area. It does back up to the ODT, which would be great for people who either want to take the ferry from Bainbridge Island and ride their bikes here all the way, which is going to become a reality. And another option is that people will be able to leave their cars and travel into Sequim, which already has the infrastructure with shopping and healthcare and things like that. So all in, I think it'd be a really great addition to our community. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bob Travis, and first of all, I want to make sure I didn't just have my shopping list here and not my notes. After 25 years in the Army, we had a saying, and that was a plan is just as good as it can be until the first shot is fired. And I want to kind of take an overview and a cautionary tale, and that is a plan is, in this type of a community, is incredibly important, especially when it deals with growth. In the 18 years that Carol and I have lived here, growth has always been kind of at the forefront of what we want to do as a community, where we want to be. Is it too much? Is it too little? And the council's responsibility, of course, is to guide us through that. And I really want to make sure that you understand that responsibility. You need to understand that right now, from what I understand, we have not only from West Bay, the 600 permits there, we also have another 600 permits floating around through the process. That's a lot of growth. Obviously, West Bay is not going to happen overnight. It's going to be at a 20-year process. But again, it represents growth. It represents what this community is going to look like in 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. So I would hope that the council is going to take a look at the planning and use the moratorium as time to say, okay, where are we now? What do we have in the way of managing growth? What are our responsibilities? Project resources that we're going to need for the growth that we have planned. And also funding for infrastructure. What are our schools going to look like? What's OMC going to look like, and our ability to provide the business opportunities that a growing community needs. So again, the bottom line is, again, are we looking out for the community 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Don't look here, look out here. So I really would hope that the council and working with the community and all of the people who are involved with, I heard agencies all over the place. I'm not saying don't do the growth. I'm saying manage it properly. So thank you very much.
And the last 3 individuals for public comment are John Worthington, Lucas Shiflett, and Danny Steger. Actually, I apologize. The 4th person, Daniel Simons.
John Worthington Sequim, you know, I'm going to oppose the moratorium because it's unfair. Just like I mentioned earlier, it's unfair to the public when you delegate your decision-making authority to CERN and the NODC, and then you take an application which I believe the way I see it happening is they submitted their application, then they requested an update to the comp plan. It's been shown, I've seen it, that you don't make the call. You don't make the final call. And the ECB board, they review what you do and decide whether it complies. It's kind of easy. For the last 10 years, it's all the same, rechannel growth to the UGA. Is that development within the UGA? It should have already been on a map before the application was even turned in. But we don't know that because you've delegated the decision-making authority to to CERN, and NODC represents CERN over at the Puget Sound Partnership. So it appears to me that your delegation of your final comp plan is a major problem. A, we never see it. The public never sees it before it becomes final. And B, some poor soul that turns in an application doesn't know enough before he turns in the application. So there may be all kinds of, and I'll be back when you just to give the thumbs up or thumbs down. But for now, your process stinks. You delegated this stuff and you took an application as if you could make the final call, but you couldn't. You got to run it up the flagpole at NODC and CERN. Not a way to run a railroad. Thank you.
Lucas?
Hey guys, I'm Luke Shiflett, and tonight I'm not necessarily speaking for one development, but I'm concerned about the moratorium for all future development. The impression this gives to developers isn't great. It shows instability in our government. Our local government is not capable of receiving, and I understand you guys are attempting to fix that. What this shows me, I'm a builder in the area almost 20 years, not a developer, but I represent all development business in this community. I've lived here forever. What it shows me, we've been meeting with the city for almost 2 years on basic permit needs and permit timelines, and we have not been able to even make major headway there. So what makes you think that in 6 months you're going to have this figured out, right? So take any developer, we'll take the really attractive one that's here right now that knows what they're doing and can do a quality job, and you're going to scare them away to another area, hurt our economy, stun our growth. So I strongly urge you, listen to your community. Let's get going.
Danny Steger?
All right, close. Steiger. I'm Danny Steiger. I'm the CEO of Lumber Traders, Angeles Millwork, and Hartnagel Building Supply, but I'm not going to talk about building supplies. I'm also a board member for Habitat for Humanity, but I'm not going to talk about housing things. As it was made clear, the moratorium is about the comprehensive plan and these sorts of things. I'm also a planning commissioner in Port Angeles. I understand what's on your shoulders with the comp plan, right? This is a crazy amount of work to get through. But I think we have a tendency sometimes to focus so much on the rules and trying to get things just perfect. But we got to remember that people are out here trying to do things in our community, right? And it's not our job to say no. It's our job to say yes, and here's how. And I think that's an important step. So I really hope that you'll think about this, because this is going to bring a lot of jobs, a lot of economic stability and vitality to our community. And I think it's something we really need. So I just want to remind you all that and hope that you take action. Thank you.
And Daniel?
Hi, thank you so much for letting me speak. I'm not a resident of Sequim, but rather someone who's had the luxury of being able to enjoy this town for the past year or so. I have been over at the John Wayne Waterfront Resort working as a seasonal help. They hire seasonal employees to do work camping jobs. So I'm camp hosting over there for the season with my family. We're originally from the Northwest, over from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and so we're very familiar with rapid growth in towns that aren't ready to handle that growth. And I see the same telltale signs here in Sequim, unfortunately. I see a town that is unfortunately overburdened by the current population that's here, with a medical system that can't support them, as well as road infrastructure that's not capable of handling the number of cars that currently exist, let alone that would be brought by a development like West Bay or Sequim Bay, whatever it's called. I've heard a lot of support for these large developments, and I think it's a wonderful thing to be concerned with the economics of a city and to see the growth of a city and the stability of that. And I would caution and continue to just express that this prospect is tantalizing and exciting, but it does not necessarily bring stability. It brings a burden, and it brings with it the heavy, heavy load on the current infrastructure that is in place over there. If you haven't had a chance to enjoy the marina or the resort, there's public trails. We encourage you to go and walk on it. It's a nice place to go walk around. Some lovely old growth forest back there, and some beautiful nature, lots of egrets, and Canadian goose are all flying in right now, heading south. So they're all landing on the bay. It's a beautiful place. I am curious what effect these large developments would have on the environment of the area. I know that's not really the forefront of everybody's concern, but there's a lot of animals that use that place. There's a lot of wildlife that lives in that area that would be greatly affected by a development this large, no matter how long it would take to develop it. I know this is about not the development, but the moratorium. That's why I think it's important to use this time that the moratorium gives us to continue investigating what would SQUIM look like if this was to get approved. What would, in 20 years, the community be with that many extra cars, that many extra people? As an additional thing about housing, about affordability, the lowest cost house, a studio room, a studio up, villa or whatever in Seabrook is $500,000. So I don't know if anybody else can afford that here, but I can't. And I'd like to move here with my family. So love you guys. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
And that concludes public comment.
All right, I will now close the public comment portion of the hearing, and thank you for everyone that provided public comment. All right. Is there any council discussion? All right, seeing that, public hearing is now closed. Is there anything further from council? Seeing none, we are adjourned for 10 minutes. All right, I'm going to call us back to order. All right, if the city clerk could please read the consent agenda.
Items on tonight's consent agenda, claim vouchers totaling $2,138,837.90. City Council meeting minutes for September 8, 2025. Washington Street Pavement Rehabilitation Project, Agreement Supplement Number 1. Priest Road Rehabilitation Project, Agreement Supplement Number 1. Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan, and the Development Regulations Update for the Public Participation Plan.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Anything further? All right, seeing none. Any opposed? All right, seeing none, that motion will pass. All right, moving on to general business, 2026 proposed budget overview. That'll be Sue.
Good evening, Mayor and Deputy and Council members. I can't believe it's September already and we are talking about next year's budget, but good to see you all. So in your council materials, we've got your council cover. We've given you the city manager's budget message for the year, provided you with the ordinance. And I'm not even sure how long that presentation was, but I hope it was helpful to you all in the recorded audio. And also, you know that the digital budget book was made available to you all on September 12th. Just a reminder, this is just kind of the first touch. So those materials were kind of the first touch and an overview of the budget book. The next job is to review the areas of the budget book that either interest you or familiarize yourself with the department budgets, our funding sources. It's really a great document to just learn about all of the machinations of what a city does. So whether you want to dive into the details on that or stay high level, that is up to you. But just know that I and your staff team is here for you to answer any questions. So we encourage you to actually send me your comments, questions, and concerns. And that way I can make sure I get your answers detailed. I can connect with the departments that might know the answers to those questions the best, and then provide council the answers to those questions over the course of the next month or so. Also, please know that I'm more than happy to organize meetings with department heads or the CMO to go over any specifics questions you have in a one-on-one meeting with you. So please do request those if you need. October is kind of the month of one-on-one meetings if you'd like to schedule those meetings with us. As always, I'm kind of a paper person, so if you want a paper copy, I'm more than happy to get that binded up for you so you can make your notes. And then just look forward to having all of our public hearings on the required items for our rates and fees, our property tax levy, and the final hearings on the adoption of the budget in November. We only have one council meeting in December, so we're hoping that by the end of November, we've got everything in place. I do have a deadline to the Clallam County for the property tax levy request, and that technically is November 30th, but it's typically more like around November 17th through the 20th, because they need time to do all of their processes with a property tax levy. Any questions? Anything you've seen so far regarding the budget?
Just when would you like to receive comments and questions by when?
And oh gosh, I would say maybe by the first week of October. And usually I can come up with pretty thorough answers for you pretty quick. I do have a little bit of vacation in early October, but yeah, I would say the first week of October would be great. And that way we can get you all the information you need. And then I do one final thing on the budget book. I always thought it was beautiful and well put together, but what we did is our budget software has an AI, an artificial intelligence function in it, where it compares all of the content in your budget book to the GFOA, that's the Governmental Finance Officers Association, best practices and standards. And on the first pass, we got a 98.1% score. So we were tickled pink. So even AI thinks it's great. Okay, well, that's all I had for the budget. Again, questions, comments, send them to me. More than happy to set up meetings with you. Over.
All right, moving on. Let's see. Moving on to 9B 2026 proposed rates and fees.
Thank you again, Mayor. Sue Hagener, Finance Director, for the record. So as you veteran council members know, but some of you newer council members might not, as part of the budget process, we take a look at every single fee and charge that we charge for services here at the City of Sequim. So everybody in the organization looks at that chapter 3.68 for fees and charges that they're responsible for, and they look at them to see, wow, if our processes really changed. Does it take longer? Does it take less time? Who's doing these types of services? And so what's the cost of service, right? And the goal really here is to recover as much cost as possible so that it leaves the city open to using their general taxes for the broader public. So instead of spending our general taxes on some individual's sewer connection, we're actually charging that individual for that sewer connection. And so that's the whole reason why we have a chapter 3.68, is to be able to recover costs that are associated with a private benefit or limited interest. And boy, our city managers and directors, they went to town this year. We have quite a few updates. You can see that we've got lots of strikeouts and underlines, and lots of new fees, lots of deleted fees. We've clarified a lot of language. We've deleted duplicative language and among other things. The final thing that I'll mention is that the resolution approved by council in July of this year that agreed to a 5-year schedule of rate changes for water and sewers, those have been incorporated into the rates and fees, as well as the 3% inflationary factor for GFCs. So that was an action you took earlier in the year that has been rolled into this particular update. I will also mention that on the rates and fees related to utilities, we cut out a lot of duplicative stuff. Basically, water base fees and water usage fees are the same across all customer classes, but we had a section for each of these classes, even though the rates were the same. So we just got rid of anything that was duplicative. One of the things that I also will mention specific to utility rates is that we have added a third tier for usage. We've had that in place for multifamily, and we've had it for single family, but our largest users of water weren't being incentivized to conserve because they never got the higher rate third tier on their higher usage, on their when they're using a ton of cubic feet of water. They never got that charge. So we were kind of feeling this is a fairness issue. This is a fairness issue. You know, we don't want the weight of the utility falling on the backs of our single family residents and our multifamily residents, but it's also seriously a conservation issue. And we're hoping that by charging the third tier for excessive consumption, it'll make people look at their water use habits and adjust their behaviors. Fingers crossed. Again, when we're trying to look at ways to conserve our water resources, and showing that to our community is really important to us. So kudos to Public Works and his people for finding creative ways to keep our utilities healthy and watch out for our water supply. So those were all of the comments that I had really prepared for this evening. Again, you have your strike-through version, you've got your clean copy of the version, and you had an audio recorded presentation of the information. And again, questions, comments, and concerns, you can feel free to send me the emails, and I'm happy to set up any time with you that you need to go over this stuff. Over.
I just have a quick question, maybe off the top of your head.
Sure.
Just under facility rentals, to waive the rental fees for all government agencies, was there a big uptick in outside government agencies from Clallam County requesting use of facilities?
Not really. This was a recommendation that the Public Works Director made. He might be able to speak to that, but and I don't think we get a lot of rentals from governmental agencies, but I will mention that in our 2026 budget, we have, because we've got events and facility staff now, that's part of what their job is to rent these facilities and get people using city facilities. And so we've seen our rental revenues actually increase nicely. So you'll see that in the third quarter financial report. So again, kudos to Public Works staff and our facility staff.
Anything else from council?
Thanks, everybody.
All right, no information this evening, so we'll move on to Youth Liaison.
Deep breath. For purposes of the record, this is the Youth Liaison Layla Sundin speaking. We have the Sequim Education Foundation banquet on October 11th. Homecoming Hallways begins Monday the 29th. And then the homecoming football game is October 3rd, and the dance is October 4th. Football just had their senior night, and fall sports are in full swing. The high school is holding the PSAT and the SAT this October. Senior night for Sequim High School seniors was tonight. There is a student field trip planned to Pacific Lutheran University this week for college interest. And for college tours to PLU. Link is going, I think. Sequim High School ASB are putting on a food drive. Each class is building a sculpture out of canned food, and then community members get to vote on which sculpture is the best. And each vote is $1, so all votes go toward funding that class's ASB, and then at the end, all of the food that we've collected from students and community members will go to the food bank, and that'll be happening over homecoming week. Sequim Middle School and High School band participated in the University of Washington annual Husky Band Day a couple weeks ago, so that was really cool, and I think that's all I have for you.
All right, thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Councilmember Rudder. I'm a University of Puget Sound alumni, so crosstown rivals in Pierce County. So
It's all good. I forgive you.
yeah. I never knew any of that rival stuff. I was heads down with school and family.
Yeah, here. Thank you. Can't wait to hear your report.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you, Council. Well-run evening, and I really appreciate your support. Lots of balls in the air, and yeah, it's great working with you. So a few things I want to just point out. I've sent you several emails, and I won't reread those, but I would call your attention to them. We're proposing a change in the annual employee appreciation event, trying a new place, new time, new kind of agenda. The public safety fair is October 4th. You also received an email from Chief Hill regarding our crime report, which he sent via email. And probably most important of all, I sent you an email about Carla's acceptance of the interim director position. So voila. Yes. Couldn't be more happy about that. A couple other just real quick things. I wanted to thank those of you that were able to come to the 9/11. Remember, I just can't believe that we haven't had a meeting between that. It seems like forever ago, but when I looked at the calendar, it's like, yeah, I guess I haven't really thanked you for your participation and support of that. So that turned out really well. A couple other quick things I'll mention here. I was able to attend the last, well, attend most of them, but the last Planning Commission meeting went extremely well. It had a chance. Travis and of course Carla ran it, and they, besides moving the comp plan forward and whatnot, they were able to address site-specific rezoning requests, 11 of them, and those that were present all complimented the planning department for their ability to meet, talk, figure out a solution. It was just really full of hugs and compliments. And then it ended with the same from the council, from the commissioner. So I just wanted you to know, I think you attend those. Were you on that last one?
I wasn't able to attend this last
Okay.
one, but I had read all of the materials and all of the staff responses that they intended to give. All of the responses were really well thought out, with the explanations of, we think this is already covered, so we need to clarify.
Right.
And it was really well done.
Right, yeah, and then those probably won't reflect all those compliments that came that were verbalized, but I appreciate your attendance, and it was a great meeting, as they all are. A couple other quick things. Sue is already dashed, but she didn't mention that today was the exit interview for the audit that occurred from the feds regarding federal funds that were here. It turned out to be like a 5-minute exit interview because there were no recommendations other than thumbs up, and so as they usually are. I think just a couple more things. Hope I'll be able to come back to you and give you some good reports or information on, we're seriously getting closer to a GIS administrator position for the IT department and for a senior planner for Carla and our planning department, DCD. All those jobs are open and applications are coming in, and hopefully we're getting closer. Finally, I want to just point out Public Works continues to move a lot of things forward, but particularly working with the state and the county on Flora Acres and some of the financing and the timing for that. I also want to thank Paul and Public Works for their work on the water conservation. We had a meeting on Friday and are working on citywide solutions for, there's so many things that involve water. It's not just conservation, but multiple levels from utilities to software for residents or SCADA. There's just a lot of things that have to do with water, and he's on it. Megan runs our sustainability committee. As you know, we usually make an annual report to council on that, and I'm on that committee, of course, and we talk about getting that on the schedule as well. I think we've got to place a card in for late fall. So just lots of great things going on in Public Works as well. So any questions I can answer for you? Of course, my door's always open.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Committee reports. Anybody have anything? All right. Anything for open discussion? All right. Anybody would like to attend the Tuesday, October 7th at 2:00 planning meeting? All right. If you're able to attend, just let Heather know. We'll see you at 2:00 if you are. Otherwise, next regularly scheduled meeting will be October 13th at 6 p.m. Do we have a work session or anything that day? No.
We do not have a work session, but the SHISO delegates will be coming into town. And so fingers crossed, their travel time will end up being so that they arrive here on time. Hopefully they could have dinner with us. That'd be really cool.
So I'm sorry, the intention is for there to be a work session with SHISO City or not for there? Oh,
No,
okay.
I'm inviting. So you know how, like when we do have work sessions, we invite people to have dinner with us. So I intend to invite them to have dinner with us, but no obligation.
Okay.
But the hope is that with travel time, you know, like hopefully the bridge isn't closed. Hopefully there's no accidents. Hopefully, so the plan is that they'll be here at least at 6 for the regular council meeting to do like our proclamation and here's our business cards and take some photos. But that's the 13th. So fingers crossed that all the timing works out.
Sounds great.
Councilor Butler.
Yeah, thank you. Just quick opportunity to say thank you to Heather and to Oleg and the staff for facilitating remote participation. It's my first time using this facility, and I really appreciate being participate and listening on the meeting tonight. So thank you very much.
All right, there's nothing else.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Any opposed? All right. See you then. Have a good night, everyone.